Hey, Ilizwi Moja Africa family. Welcome to episode 18 of our podcast. We are ending off our series on trailblazing youth doing amazing things in Africa. So, to recap, we had an enlightening discussion with Diana Rajoro on Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Her expertise and knowledge on the issues of breast cancer and early detection was extremely helpful and insightful. This year has been filled with wonderful conversations from African elections, which has shaped the trajectory of our country of how our countries should be governed, to speaking about the resiliency of agripreneurs like Alkali from Nigeria. In addition, we also highlighted the historical impacts of the Soweto uprising, giving rise to future leaders like Gen Z activists who heroically confronted the issues of the finance bill. Today, we are ending off this amazing year by highlighting the achievements, experience, and journey of one impactful young leader. But before we get into it, we would appreciate it if you follow us on Twitter at Ilizwi Moja or on Facebook at Ilizwi Moja and check out our TikTok at Ilizwi Moja Africa. Do not forget to like our videos and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So I'm your host for today, Slindile Mthembu, an academic enthusiast, joined by my co-host, Here Yanga, a youth mentor, author, and leadership coach at Shujaa Rising Consulting from Kenya. We also have our wonderful social media intern, Clifford Hafner, who is an enthusiast for youth empowerment and girls' rights. So we are getting to our guest, Eugenia Rogers. She is a dynamic young leader determined to drive transformative change, starting in her hometown of Freetown, Sierra Leone, and expanding her impact across the globe. A dual undergraduate and graduate student, Eugenia is currently pursuing a degree in environmental science and policy at Smith College in the United States, alongside a master's in international and development studies with a focus on environment and sustainability at the Geneva Graduate Institute in Switzerland. A proud alumni of the prestigious African Leadership Academy class of 2019, Eugenia embodies the institution's vision of cultivating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa's future. Her passion lies at the intersection of women policy and the environment, fueling her mission to address systemic challenges affecting marginalized communities and natural ecosystems alike. Eugenia's dedication to youth empowerment and sustainable development is exemplified through her work as a social entrepreneur. While balancing her rigorous studies, she founded a youth-focused initiative in Sierra Leone that provides mentorship, education, and resources to nurture young talents and foster community resilience. Driven by a bold vision for her country's future, Eugenia inspires to become Sierra Leone's first female president, championing policies that prioritize equity, sustainability, and opportunity for all. Her journey reflects the power of determination and innovation, proving that age is no barrier to leadership. Through her work, Eugenia continues to inspire a generation of change makers to dream big and take action. We are happy to have you join us in our last discussion of the year. Thank you so much for joining us, Eugenia.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, awesome. So I admire the aspiration of becoming the first female president of the Republic of Sierra Leone. So your interest in sustainable development, particularly in Africa, and to raise awareness about environmental issues is very important. So it actually brings me to my first question. Why do you believe that as Africans, we should be educated about sustainable development?
Thank you. That's the question that keeps me up at night here in Geneva.
Yes.
We're actually at a unique phase in a trajectory as a continent because I've understood that Africa gets to now choose what development would look like, what it would
Mhm.
smell like, what it would taste like, what it would feel like. Because when we study how development has taken place in the Western Hemisphere, particularly in the US, it has come with a lot of wealth inequalities, it has come with a lot of pollution, it has come with a lot of environmental degradation. And there's actually a certain ideology tied to the development we practice across the world today, wherein it's a survival of the fittest mode. And if you don't get yourself up by your bootstraps, then you're out of the race. That's the mentality, which actually doesn't account for systematic and structural issues that go on that make people like be homeless or something like that. It makes it look as though like if you're poor, then you chose to be poor, or you're not hardworking enough, or you're lazy, ideas like that. So for Africa, why we should be educated about sustainable development is, I'll put it in a question format actually, is do we want the developments that would come with losing parts of our culture or our language or even our history? Is it the kind of development that would continue to hail Western philosophy, Western culture, and see it as superior to our own or superior than our own? Um, yeah, and development as we know it today, it's mostly to fight against poverty. And personally, I detest poverty. I reject it in all its forms. But in this quest to rise out of poverty, I also want to ask you that's watching or listening to me right now, would it be at the detriment of your mental health and community well-being? Because when you see Africa as an individual, like the entire continent, let's take it as an individual, we're actually reinventing ourselves right now. We're in a very unique position. So I would ask, who do we want the world to see us as? You know, for many countries, electricity is still a big issue. And for the rest of the world, especially the Western world, how they've developed is relying on fossil fuels. But for us, electricity is already an issue, but we get to choose. Do we want clean energy, or do we still want coal and oil that would actually have incredibly bad effects on our environment? So we get to choose, yeah. Uh, Also, in terms of reinventing ourselves as a continent, do we want the world to still see us as, that starving, pot-bellied, disease-stricken kid that, they always put around the internet and everything? That's the idea of Africa. Do we want them to continue seeing us as this, or as the resilient, forward-thinking, determined, and holistic individual? You
Hmm.
know, we need to I feel like we need to learn how others have developed so we can choose how we want to develop, and actually pray we choose wisely, because it's all about choice actually. The choice is really ours, and the choice is in the hands of our leaders. That's why we need good leaders, right? And we need to put good leaders in power that can actually be a voice at the table. See, here in Geneva, I've come to see how international, or what they call multilateralism, like international relations, how it actually plays out. And I see that, good leaders make so much difference. So leadership is, as we learn about sustainable development, we need to learn about leadership as well. And I'll also end with saying, we put a lot of blame, yeah, a lot of blame on the Western world for our current situation. We're like, oh yeah, slave trade happened. Oh yeah, colonialism. Oh yeah, this. Oh yeah, that. And I agree, all of that has impacted where we're at right now as a continent, or as, Sierra Leone and South Africa. All of that counts, but let's not we should stop playing the victim mentality game, and we should not allow ourselves to be tied down by it, because if we always continue to see ourselves as the victim, then that's how we'd be treated. See, going back to my point of seeing the continent as an individual, it's just like how me as a person, or Yusli, or even Daniel on the call, how do you see yourself as a person would impact how others see you. So that's how we should do with Africa as well. We should refuse to still see ourselves as victims. I'm very fascinated by countries like China and Asia in general, like the continent of Asia, how in a matter of decades they've been able to reinvent themselves. They've been able to change their trajectory, and I believe Africa can follow suit. But it's a lot about choice, the right mindset, and the right leaders. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's fantastic, Eugenia. And I like that you mentioned that Africa being independent, because we had such a strong hold from the
Mhm.
West, and how Western imperialism
Mhm.
has, just continued to be so detrimental for us. And so
Mhm.
when we talk about sustainability, we need to define what is sustainability for us as Africans and what can work for us. And that
Yeah.
it's so important that you've mentioned those critical points that as Africans we need to reinvent ourselves, which is a very big thing, and that we are currently in the process of doing that. And we can learn from your Asia, your Southeast Asian countries, countries that are not tied to Western influence. That's something that we can learn from them so that we can shape our own trajectory. And as you said, we have a very what you call a stereotypical narrative about us that, as you mentioned, the pot belly, the starving individual, etc. So it's something where as Africans taking independence and holding our own understanding of what sustainability is and the importance of that. So yeah, that is thank you for answering that question. And it actually just brings me to a little bit more about your background. Like I really want to know about you and your achievements. And it kind of just brings me into your journey, right? Because your journey is so inspiring. Like you have experienced, working or being at ALA, the African Leadership Academy, which is amazing. And I see that you've
Mhm.
received a number of awards, in the academy, including the Gracia Michelle Young Scholar Award, and you also received the Challenge Award. So just take me through your experience at the African Leadership Academy as an alumni.
Yes. It feels like yesterday that I graduated. I still look back and I'm like, oh wow, ALA is really now in memory, but it's my time there is still very much at the forefront of my thinking. And every day I wake up and I'm like, wow, I'm so grateful I went to that space because for me, this journey of learning about sustainable development is started there. And my time at ALA was very, very transformative. It was intense, like, intense mental transformation. And there are a lot of things I had to unlearn, a lot of things I had to learn, a lot of things I had to relearn because the way I was taught back home in Sierra Leone, it was very different from what the learning system at ALA is. So back home in Sierra Leone, it's more regurgitative. You just blurt out everything the teacher gives you in during exams. But at ALA, I heard about critical thinking. I heard about being an autodidactic, like very big words. I'm like, okay, what am I doing here? But in those 2 years, and it was also during COVID. So throughout COVID, we were on lockdown at ALA on campus. But I really appreciate that time because I grew a lot. I grew a lot and I started seeing things from a continental perspective. Yes, I became an Africanist at ALA. It was at ALA I grew love for my Afro hair because before that I used to relax my hair since I was 10. But it was at ALA surrounded by other girls from Africa who would proudly, especially South Africans. Yeah, South Africans at ALA, they were so proud of their Afro hair. And I was like, wow, my thought was, I want to feel how they feel. Because you could tell, like, they were just different species, if I could put it that way. So I was like, okay, I was curious, and I was like, let me see what this actually what it would mean for me. And that my hair journey alone is another journey on its own, but it's now part of my identity, and it started from ALA. And at ALA, I got to appreciate the diversity of the continents. Because I feel like when you're only in your home country, only in your bubble, you think that's your entire world. But once you step out of it, you're like, wow, you see people live so differently than you, and you're like, wow, we all reside in this same, green ball. Yeah, and it's at ALA, I understood that most of the challenges that I used to face, or that we still face in Sierra Leone, is actually cut across. I thought we were the only ones experiencing light issues, but then I'm South African. Load shedding is, is another, it's the order of the day. And I was like, okay. I thought it was only a Sierra Leonean problem. Here, folks from DRC or Namibia or, any other African country and we were all like teenagers then, so we would share problems that cut across, and then would think about possible solutions. We had classes on entrepreneurship. So having like me being a social entrepreneur, it was the seeds were planted at ALA. So yeah, this is me selling ALA advertising and saying if you're a young student out there and you'd want to make change in Africa, ALA is a good place to start. Or even if you want to grow as a person and if you're tired of the education system in your own country, because me, that was my reason for going to ALA. So if you're tired of the education system in your own country, I'd say give ALA a try. It's worth the shot. And many people come to me asking this question, oh, is it a waste of time? Because it's 2 years, but it's the age gap is 15 to 19. And it's not really high school, it's not really college. It's like in between, it's a pre-college program. So I'd say even if you've started university, maybe in your first year, second year, as long as you're not yet 19, you still have a shot. And yeah, I wish ALA, there was an ALA in every country in Africa, actually, because yeah, it would really transform the continent.
Yeah, I really love that, Eugenia. I like how you spoke about how it made you more Pan-Africanist, right? It's like being able to, admire like the small things, even if it's your hair, your language,
Mhm.
your culture, just as a Sierra Leonean, being proud of yourself, being proud of where you come from. And just ALA is able to give you that platform and to be able to learn and give you opportunities as well, which I've seen. And yeah, and I mean, you've made such a huge impact. I mean, the fact that you got these awards, that is
Mhm.
actually amazing. And thank you for also voicing out to those that if you want to join, please join.
Mhm.
Because this is such a great platform, a great opportunity for a lot of young people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, so we are moving to our next question. So, Eugenia, I wanted to know what inspired you to pursue your studies in sustainable development? So, we kind of touched on it a little bit in the first question, but currently you are pursuing your master's in international and development studies, environments, and sustainability. So, yeah, what inspired you to pursue that?
Okay. To answer this question, we'd have to go back to, I think it was August 14, 2017. So in Freetown, where I grew up, my hometown, there was a mudslide. I believe it happened overnight. Very deadly one. It took the
Mm,
lives of many people and thousands were injured, property lost. It was tragic. And it was the
mm,
first time, I think, for me in my existence, it was the first time to witness a natural disaster up close.
mm,
And it really troubled me. So after that occurrence, I vowed to enter the environmental policy sphere to ensure that the environmental laws in Sierra Leone are more effective because I believe they exist. It's just a matter of implementation. And what mainly caused the mudslide, in my opinion, was the intense deforestation taking place in the city because Freetown is very hilly, very mountainous. And the place where the mudslide took place, it was at a hill, and around it there are so many new settlement, new construction happening. So obviously the earth, was under too much stress. So I'd say she had to let go. She had to release, we can't blame her, right?
yeah.
So yeah, I at Smith College, I am majoring in environmental science and policy to explore how best to create, I would say, adaptive strategies,
Mm,
to ensure that my community is more resilient. Before going into the field, I had all the big terms that people throw around, climate adaptation, climate mitigation. I knew nothing of that. I just knew I want to do something to make sure this doesn't happen again.
yes.
Experiencing it, not even firsthand, but mostly in proxy, I'd say. It really touched my heart. Because the people who are directly affected, most of them they're still struggling to make ends meet and to start from scratch. So yeah, climate issues, they really, at the grassroots level, it really affects people's future. It affects their dreams even, because how could you
Mm.
even start from nothing all over again, you
Yeah.
know? So yeah, that's what pushed me to start the major at Smith, the degree, first degree, and then for the master's, I noticed, okay, actually, there's a lot more going on than we think. I actually saw how I started connecting the dots. There's so many dots around, the climate issue. And for
Mm.
me, what's tugging at my heart is the position of women, women and climate, because in many, many disasters across the world, women are the ones most affected, particularly in conflict zones across the world. Women are definitely more affected because, like for Sierra Leone, women are the ones who they interact more with the environment, yeah.
Yes.
So they have to be the ones, at least for our context, to like go out and fetch water. So imagine if the stream or the well where you go to fetch water is like dry, then yeah, what happens to the meal for that day, right? So women have a big role to play when it comes to climate adaptation and climate mitigation. So I'm pursuing this master's to see how to wrap my head around this, the intersection of women, children, and climate, because they are the population most at risk when disasters strike. So I
Mhm.
hope to get a deeper understanding of how the international community can better protect women and children
Mm.
during the ongoing climate crisis, particularly in Sierra Leone. I'm looking at the global south in general as a region, but Africa is near and dear to my heart. So yeah.
Yes. I love that. I like that you
Mhm.
mentioned how you experienced looking at the situation that's happening around Freetown and understanding that, you know what, there has to be something that should ensure that there is sustainability, that there is
Oh, I think.
focus on environmental change. And I like that you mentioned those very important aspects and you looked at what's happening in your country and what's happening in general in Africa and that really what's inspired you to pursue sustainable development. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, Eugenia, I want to move to the next question, and I want to take okay, so I want you to take us through your social entrepreneur journey. So, what has been the most rewarding parts about being a social entrepreneur, and what has been the most difficult parts? Yeah, so, the rewarding parts and the most difficult parts, especially when managing your youth-based initiative in Sierra Leone.
Yes, yes. It's $1 million question, especially the difficult part.
Yes.
So the name of my initiative is the Eugenia M.B. Rogers Youth Foundation.
Mm,
It's a foundation I'm starting from scratch, which is it comes with its own package. But so it's different from the name is different because it's to honor my late grandma. So her name, we're both Eugenia Rogers, but our initials are different. And I remember when I was playing with the idea and I told my dad, and he was like, okay, if you want this to honor your grandma, the initials have to be there because so people
yeah.
will know that, okay, this is the name of your grandma, not your name. So I was like, okay, let's do that. Yeah, so it's Eugenia M.B. Rogers Youth Foundation, and it's in honor of my late grandma. She was an academic, uh, an author. She was a phenomenal woman.
Mm,
And basically, I want her dreams to come true, if I can put it that way. She authored several books, several textbooks that even I used in my school curriculum growing up in Sierra Leone. And she really wanted to see young people grow
mm,
and be change makers, change makers in their communities. And she was a firm supporter of the things I used to do, even before I went to ALA growing up. And I remember she would tell me, make me your PA, make me your personal assistant. She
yeah.
would joke about it with me. She's like, you're busier than I am. And I'm like,
Mm.
oh, I don't think so. Yeah, so it's in honor of my late grandma, and basically we focus on education since she was an educator. We want to complement what kids learn in school. And I wanted to start at very grassroots level in my community in Freetown. It's called the Orubu community. It was a new settlement that was coming up, and my mom and I moved there very whilst it was like still coming up, the community. So going there, and this was shortly before I moved to Sierra Leone, before I moved to South Africa, and I noticed a lot of things. That one teenage pregnancy was a big thing in that community, in that area of the city. And I also noticed people were kind of in their silos, in their own bubbles. There was not really that sense of community, especially for young girls. And I was like, okay, I need to do something about it. And this was December of 2022 while I was going home for my first winter break after being in the US for I think a year. I called my mom and asked her, okay, I'm coming home. What do we do? I want to do something, but I wasn't sure what. So we thought of the idea of just bringing girls to our home and just chat with them. That was it. And I pitched it to my school, Smith College, and they gave me some money to like for funds to make sure they have something to eat and a take-home package afterwards. So that's how the initiative started. And a year and a half later, we've now done the first spelling bee in that community. So I work with girls and I kind of groom them to be community leaders as well. So with these girls that came to my house, they've stuck with me on Zoom because since that time I haven't been able to go home yet. So all of our activities have been online. Our workshops have been via Zoom or WhatsApp. And then together we've organized two spelling bees, one debate competition for high schoolers. But the spelling bee is what I want to highlight right now, the first one. That's been the most rewarding part for me so far because it was the first time happening in that community, and we wanted to sell tickets, to raise funds because for now it's self-funded. I'm using my own meager student job salary to
Mm.
run the initiative. So yeah, I need support. I need funding, grant funding. But so we organized the spelling bee. We printed tickets and it got sold out. I was like, okay, this is a good sign. People are curious, people are excited about this.
Mm.
And we gathered the kids together to take part in the spelling bee. And I was impressed by how smart, how intelligent those kids were. I was the one to prepare the spelling list, about 300 words, very difficult words that I knew that at their level, to challenge them because I wanted it to be very rewarding for them. And I was impressed. The day we did that event, we had to go over time because I remember there were two girls who were tied for the first position and nobody wanted the other person to win. So any question we gave them, they would answer and answer well. And it was like, whoa. It was such a great time, and I joined on Zoom. Everyone enjoyed themselves. The parents were so proud. And I felt after the event, I felt so fulfilled and I felt like, wow, I want to keep doing this. And I want kids to have a chance, to explore their own talents and their own abilities. Because, if that avenue was never around, we would never have known that there was such brilliance, among us. And right now we're trying to make those kids that were the first and second winners for them to join the national spelling bee organization in the country. We're working on that partnership.
Mm.
So in a way, I put myself in the shoes of that kid from this community that's very new and going through this experience, and who knows, one day they might represent Sierra Leone at this international spelling bee competition, and they would be able to trace their journey and for me to be part of that story, I'm like, yes, this is what life is for. This is what I was born to do. So yeah, that's been the most rewarding part so far. And the difficulty, I mean, you would guess it by now from what I've mentioned, is one, the fact that being away from home and trying
Mm,
to start something, it's hard, mostly because Sierra Leone is not yet as digitally inclined.
mm,
So it makes it tough because I mean you could say, yeah, you can be anywhere in the world and do this, but yeah, the context is quite different. Because even for the workshops that I host with these girls, so it's empowerment workshops, yeah. And I remember there are times when they would all have to go home to my mom and use my mom's laptop. I send money for them to get data so they can all punch on my mom's laptop so I can, do a lecture with them or whatever, do activities with them.
yes.
So yeah, that's been a challenge. Zoom, being on Zoom is still a out of reach for many of them. But we try to be creative about it. There's WhatsApp and there are other ways, but primarily that's been the hurdle, trying to navigate the digital divide and also me managing my studies, and trying to yeah. So most of what I did was while I was still an undergrad student full time, but now doing both undergrad and graduate and the foundation, and I have other passion projects as well. Ideas keep coming every other night. I'm like, okay, Eugenia, just pace yourself, be a student for now, enjoy my time because I know I won't be a student all my life.
Mm,
So yeah, it's just a matter of priorities and going back to the drawing board every now and then and figuring out, okay, what can I do with the time and the little that I've got. But yeah, it's so far it's looking good. The future is looking very bright. So I know this will be a challenge per se, so to speak, in a couple years. So yeah, we hope for the best.
that I love that you mentioned that the future is looking bright. That, as you said, that Sierra Leone is digitally not inclined, so that's still something that needs to be worked on. And but I
Mhm.
love the passion that you have for your community. The fact that you named your foundation, your grandmother, your late grandmother's name, that is so sentimental, and it also just shows how you link a lot of things that you do to experience to certain individuals that have shaped your life. And yeah, so I really like that. I really like the rewarding parts, but also the difficult parts that comes with it. And so now I'm going to go into pretty much your final question on your journey, your exciting journey from New York to Nairobi to Copenhagen to Geneva. So how were you able to do this? Like, how were you able to get to this point? We're now pursuing a master's degree in Geneva, Switzerland. So just take me through that journey.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So I celebrated my birthday in last Monday. So
Ah,
November
happy
25th.
birthday.
Thank you. I turned 23 and I asked myself this very question. Like, Eugenia, you've traveled a fair amount, you've seen the world a fair amount, and yeah, how far have we come? And for me, the first answer I have is only by the grace of God.
Mm,
I believe that I am who I am by God's help, by God's support. Several parts of the Bible, the Lord says, I'll just read it. I will
mm,
not leave you until I have done what I've promised you. And there's a part that says, I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go. So verses like these actually anchor and ground me. They actually center me a lot, especially
mm.
living on my own. I have family in the US, but they're also far away from me. US is actually a whole continent. That place is huge.
Yeah.
I have to I have to fly to go see them. We're
Mhm.
like two ends of the country away from each other. So essentially I've been on my own for the past 5 years, since 2019 when I went to South Africa, and then it's been I think I've lived in 5 countries Like
Wow.
for more than a month, I've lived in 5 countries.
Mm,
Yes, yes. Yeah, so for me, the grace of God carries me through. And there have been hard times for sure, but when I remember my family, I have to make my mom and dad proud. I have to make sure that, their sweat, blood, and tears have not been for nothing. And when I recall, I'm the eldest in my family, so when I recall that, oh, I have to pave the way for my siblings, I have to make life less hard for them. And I've shared what I've been doing in my community, this drive, this desire to make my community better. And for me, I see it, if not me, who else? Like, I don't
mm,
have to sit and wait. I'll be like, okay, someone else can do it. No, like, I was put here for a reason. I have to be the one to do it, and I'd have to wait for anyone else. Um, Also because I actually hope to go back to Sierra Leone and live there someday. I don't know when, but
mm,
yes, I don't think I can be out of Africa for too long. I actually, yeah, I was in Nairobi this past summer over like from May to July, and I had the best time of my life. So I'd love to explore more parts of Africa. But I'm like, okay, we need a lot to get done, to be able to enjoy life in Africa, I feel like it's the rich people. The rich people
mm.
enjoy Africa a lot. They do.
Yeah.
When you have money, Africa, anywhere in Africa, you will enjoy it because the land is blessed, it's
Mm.
beautiful, the people are mostly nice most of the time. But
Well,
yeah, the food is amazing. The food
yeah.
is great. So, why not? Why not go back? So
Mm,
thinking of all of these, whenever hard times come, challenging times come, I dust myself back up and keep moving,
mm,
So on Monday, when I was celebrating my birthday, I was so impressed and so proud of how much of a resilient and adaptable spirit I've built over time.
mm,
And that has actually helped carry me through because it is not easy. Like even right now here in Geneva, I was shocked to know that French is spoken more than English here. I did not have that as a clue at
mm.
all. So
Wow.
I'm learning. Yeah, yeah, that was so surprising. French is what they speak first, and if they know you can speak French as well, then they switch to English. But for my studies, it's primarily in English, so that's
Mm.
that's that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but learning a new language, it's not easy. When I was in Copenhagen as well, I had to learn Danish. That was
Mm,
fun. But yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do, just having the goal set in front of you and being determined to hit it no matter what. Do what you have to do and do it well. That has been one of my mantra that has kept me through. So yeah, yeah,
love that.
brighter days ahead.
Yeah, I like how you
Mhm.
also just mentioned the experience of different cultures, languages, etc., and just learning and being open-minded to learn. I think that's such a big thing as a leader, just being able to open to receiving information and also giving information is so
Exactly.
important. Yeah, so
Exactly.
this is great. So now I'm going to open up the platform to anyone who has questions for Eugenia. Um, yeah, if you don't have any questions, then we will end off
Mhm.
there. And as people are thinking about questions, I have this last bonus question. And I want to know, this is basically a message that, as Eugenia, that you will give to young African leaders. Like, how do you, in just giving this message, that what message would you like to give to individuals who want to pursue their dreams and want to make an impact in their communities? Like, it's kind of a broad question, but what kind of message would you give to them?
Yes. Okay, as I share what I have to say, it's also a reminder to myself. So I'll mostly just address myself right now.
Mm,
Um, yeah, I'll start off with there's a verse, Mark 9:23. It says, "All things are possible to those who believe." So you have to believe. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that you can do it. That's the first thing. And secondly, there will never be a right time. And I'm still coming to terms with this myself, that there will never be the best time to start something or to get something done. And especially for those of us with dreams or goals or however you may call it, we usually want to put it for later. So we fold our hands and say, oh, when I have a stable job, when I have a car, when I have a house, when I have a family, then I'll do this thing that I've been meaning to do all this time. But tomorrow is not promised, guys. I'm sorry to tell you, tomorrow is not promised. So we ought to start now, and we ought to start with what we have, and we ought to start young, actually. I'm so grateful that I'm where I am right now and having done what I've done so far at this age. It's such a blessing. And I'm like, okay, by the time I'm 40, by the time I'm 50, what would I have done? Rather than waiting, oh, when I become 40, when I become 50, then I will start like, it's not adding up. It's not making sense,
Mm,
right? So
mm,
start now, start with what you have. And I'm a big fan of social media, actually. So I wanted to say that people always criticize social media and be like, oh yeah, it's not healthy, it's not good for you, whatever. You have to manage your time. Definitely, yes, manage your time on social media. But for me, my algorithm, even it's borderline toxic positivity because all of my feed is like motivation, inspiration. It's a quote from here, a poet saying this, whatever. So I want to share something it's actually right in front of me right now. I wrote it on a sticky note. It says, do it afraid, do it unmotivated, do it for those who can't, do it for your 70-year-old self to be proud and your
mm.
7-year-old self to be inspired.
Wow.
And what I'll add to this is that your future self is counting on you. And actually, many other people's lives and destinies are tied to yours. When I learned of this, I was like, oh, okay, then I should not slack because, generations are waiting for you, especially African leaders out there, young African leaders. Like, I know it's not going to be easy. It's not easy if you've already started, but there's so much reward, even in the difficulty, as Lee mentioned in the previous questions. But yeah. Generations are waiting for you, and personally, I'll be here rooting for you. We got this, and yeah, good luck. All the best. Yes.
I love that. We've got this. Good luck, all the best. And also, what you've mentioned that do it for that 7-year-old who would be inspired. Do it for the 70-year-old who would be, you know, proud of you. That 70-year-old Eugenia is gonna look at you and be like, wow, kid, you've done a great
Mhm.
job. You've done a great job. And your
Yes.
7-year-old is
Great.
gonna think, wow, I have
We
actually grown
did
up to be
it.
this person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. That's such an inspirational quote, and it's so true. You literally grow up to be the person that you really wanted when you were younger, and when you were old, you look back and you think, "Wow, I've done such an amazing job."
Mhm.
So Eugenia, thank you so much. And
Mhm.
yeah, there you have it, everyone. Let us continue to uplift our trailblazing youth who are doing amazing things in Africa and inspire other young leaders to take a stand for their communities and push boundaries. We hope you, as the audience, enjoyed this conversation. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, as well as click the notification bell so that you can stay on top of our new episodes once we release them. So be on the lookout for our next episode next year and our new series. So happy holidays and happy new year. Bye for now.